Okay.
Sir, 1 minute. Just 1 minute. You see this coming? Just
okay,
1
ready?
Sir, yes, 1 minute. 1 minute.
Okay, so we had a long session today. It's interrupted by the tiff, I guess is the best way to put it, between the Chief Justice, the Chairman of the Commission, and Ghani's lawyer. There were a lot of very important subjects. We finally got to the heart of the matter today. We discussed the memorandum almost in the entire session. The justices would not allow any fishing expeditions today, so we started in some of those and they shut it down right away. What I found interesting was Mr. Haqqani's defense of this entire action against him relies on criticizing what I have said in the media. And what he's trying to do is say that in the original initial phone call that took place, in which he dictated the entire content of the memorandum to me in the first place, that during that call, instead of what I alleging it to be the case, he's saying that he called me to admonish me as Pakistan's ambassador to the United States to an American citizen. He called me to admonish me and tried to make me feel bad about the fact that I was writing so much against Pakistan. And unfortunately for him, the BBM records and other evidences show that in fact he was the one who was agreeing with everything that I was saying. So he brought up the May 3rd article that I wrote about just after the bin Laden raid took place. I then gave the evidence to the commission that showed that he agreed with what I said in the form of a BBM transcript that he had sent me, a message that he had sent me at that time. He brought up a television interview that I did, and I then brought out an article because it was about the May 2nd thing, and I brought this for you guys to have. This is a copy of the unpublished article that Hussein Haqqani and I wrote together in March of 2004 when he was at the Carnegie Endowment at that time. I urge everyone, I'll send it to you guys electronically later, but I urge everyone in Pakistan, publish this and let them read it. Then you will understand exactly where this man's mind was, on the military, on intelligence, people, on the nuclear program. In fact, all of his views that are expressed in the memorandum were there at that time, and he was the lead author on this article. It was never published, but it is an extensive listing of all of his views of what this is all about. And I've included in this, I'll send you guys the emails that show the Washington Post rejected it, the International Herald Tribune rejected it, I think there was the Wall Street Journal, I forget who all exactly rejected it. But the point is that on the first charge, he was not able to make it stick because I proved to the commission that he in fact agreed with what I had written on the May 3rd article. On the television interview, when he tried to make the issue of the nuclear program and so forth, I gave this article to demonstrate that in fact he was saying all of these things himself. And then there was one or two other things that he tried to bring up. In the end, I think they have, if that's their strategy, excuse me, bit of that papara stuck in my throat. If that's their strategy, they're in big trouble because they are not able to refute anything in terms of the hard evidence. They're not able to refute anything in terms of the documentary evidence that we put on the table. And so that's basically where things ended today. It'll continue tomorrow. I'll be happy to answer your questions.
What evidence did you produce before the commission to prove that this article was actually jointly authored and that it is genuine? I mean,
what's the authenticity of this?
Yeah, this article here is, I produced all the emails that went back and forth between... I produced all the emails that went back and forth between Haqqani and the editors of the newspapers containing the document in it. It's not just a printout of the article. I have, and when I send the emails to you, you'll see for yourself. These are all authentic.
There's a trail of it.
There's a trail, and that can be verified in any way, shape, or form that you need to. No problem with that.
They have literally strategy to them that we don't have anything to say. They said we are actually doing the argument. That's not just.
Well, of course, that's what they have to say because they have to give you guys a good headline for tomorrow's newspapers. The problem is that on every single point that they made, I was able to refute them. For example, I'll give you another example of something that came up today. Mr. Haqqani has said that he never talked to me about a National Security Council in Pakistan. Well, it turns out that General Jones himself wrote an email to me in which he said General Jones told me that Mr. Haqqani had advised him that he was doubling as the National Security Advisor of Pakistan until a new person was found.
When was that?
This was in June of 2009 when Jones was the National Security Advisor. So my point is that Mr. Haqqani's lies are now being systematically dismantled. And unfortunately for him, he has very little room now left to be able to try and admit what it is that he did. And every single point, when you read the transcript of how things went in that room today, other than the commotion about Mr. Bukhari continuing or not, when you read the transcript of everything that happened, what you will see is they put an allegation on the table. I immediately refuted it with evidence. They put allegation after allegation after allegation, and every single one that they put on the table, I had the evidence to be able to refute it on the other side.
Mr. Ijaz,
Mr. Ijaz,
Just-
this article is jointly written by you and Mr. Haqqani, and if it's against Pakistan, you are also shared this against Pakistan, yes?
Yeah, so the answer is that I don't think that anything in here that is written against Pakistan. This was an article that was written about Pakistan's nuclear malfeasance. This was
And
about
you are also the one of
I'm one of the officers.
Mr. Ijaz, today Mr.
But you have to remember something. I'm an American citizen.
Yeah.
When I write these things, I'm defending America's interests, not Pakistan's interests. Very important.
Mr. Ijaz, Mr. Haqqani just came out and he talked to media. He's saying,
Yeah.
he's talking about your credibility.
Yeah.
He's leveling an allegation against you that you have no credibility in USA. Not a single person in America came in your favor. Not a single article written in your favor.
Yeah.
He's saying that you have some financial
defaulter.
problems as well. What you will say about these allegations?
Well, the thing is that that's the only argument that they can make. So what you should expect from them is exactly that. I have not brought my friends in the United States into this affair because the facts are on my side. The evidence on my side is so strong, there's no need for me to bring people to speak out on my behalf and so forth. By the way, there were people that were very willing to. Very senior senators in the United States Senate and others that were willing to. And I told them there's no need for it because the evidence that I've got, the strength of my case and the way that I've laid the evidence out, there's no way for them to refute it. With regard to all the other stuff, today, for example, I brought all the evidence that the debts have been paid. I'm a businessman like everybody else, and sometimes you have problems in life. But those were, in some cases, they were 20 years ago what they were citing. They try to make it sound like these things happened yesterday. But 20 years ago, when I was first getting started in business, okay, like everybody else, we had problems. The issues with regard to my home in New York, those are private family matters. My home in New York has been in default for 10 years. Do you think that any bank keeps a home in default for 10 years?
But he also told us that as an American citizen, nobody came to second you in this case.
But they don't need to. That's the point I'm trying to make. There's no need for it because my evidence is so clear and so strong. If I felt I needed that, I would have done it. What Mr. Haqqani has relied on is exactly that. He's getting everyone to come to his side. He's using the money of the Pakistani people to pay lobbyists, to pay PR relations companies, to write articles for him, to get everybody that he's been feeding as the ambassador for so long to come in and give him that what we call moral support by writing in his favor. And all they're doing is it's like building a house on quicksand. So they keep on writing on top of a house that's collapsing underneath because there's nothing there.
That the commission, they actually suggested that the commission was, biased in your favor and that they were not being given the blue platform. Do you think that there is any? What do you make of their allegation?
No, I can tell you that Justice Ghazi Issa is a very strong personality. He's a very strong man. He didn't back down when they came back. Of course, both sides had sort of, shall we say, turned their agitation engines off, and then we got down to the real business of getting the data out. But I don't see that the commission has changed anything. All they simply were trying to make the point to Mr. Bukhari was, let us speak first or after you, and then you speak. Because there was so much interruption going on, and that's been part of their strategy from the very beginning. That interrupt the thought process, interrupt the train of thought so that they forget what it is that they need to say. But there's one big problem that they've got. Everything I've said is documented. Everything I've said is documented. There's no way that they can escape from it. So if I don't remember what I said, I just go back to my notes and say, okay, here's exactly what it was that I said. By the way, one thing I want to make, they tried very hard today to splice my words. They were trying to find discrepancies to say you said it this way, one way, that way, another, and so forth. And none of that worked either, because the reality is that they weren't interested in trying to listen to interpretation of what I wrote. They were only interested in trying to splice A, N, and B, and there's no way you can do that.
Mr. Ijaz, in the morning you talked about Mr. Zardari's some Swiss cases. Do you have some more evidence, and what type of evidence do you have about this? You were talking about the American Senate's Committee on Money Laundering issue. You have to produce that one.
Yeah, well, the document on the money laundering is a publicly available document, and I'll be happy to send it to you guys if you want to see it. I do have additional evidence that I'm going to hold now until we see how this first round of things go. I make the same statement that I made this morning. Mr. Zardari is doing everything he can to try and hide his complicity in any matter in which his presidential immunity can be stripped from him. Because if that presidential immunity is stripped from him, these Swiss cases become a big problem in his life. And they probably cause damage all over the place. I mean, we already know that the monies came out of French submarine deals, they came out of the Dassault aircraft deals and so forth. And, you know, he has a very simple solution. He could simply order the banks that are holding the money to send the money back to the
But there is no relation between Swiss cases and...
Thank you very much.
Just the last question. No, do you have questions?
No. Yes, I have no questions. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
You said you have support from your friends back in America, but you don't want them. You don't feel you need them right now. But if things don't go right in your way, and charges are dropped against Ghani, would you like to get your friends from the Senate involved?
No, there's no need, because first of all, I think that this thing has the possibility of crossing the Atlantic, because there may be wrongdoing on the other side as well. But I can tell you that if, for example, Mr. Ghani is exonerated of the charge that he was the conceptualizer behind the memorandum, then there has to be a basis for that. And there's no basis for that. He's not offered his BlackBerries, he's not offered his PIN codes, he's not offered any piece of information, not one single iota of evidence, because he keeps on, think about, I want you guys to remember one thing, what's going on here. They are critiquing me on every single BlackBerry screen, on every single email, on every single telephone call, and yet they say that none of this ever happened. So which is it? Did it happen or not? That's the point. And until they're willing to come clean on the fact that it did happen and that's the way it happened, he could have a different interpretation of all of those BlackBerry screens, but he should admit that they're there. He should admit that they happened. But that's the problem. He's trying to have it both ways. First he denies, and then he says, oh, by the way, and on this one, that's not what I meant to say. I meant to say something else. That's pure hypocrisy.
Is there any link in between memorandum and Swiss cases?
Yes. The link is very simple, and that is, if Mr. Zardari loses his immunity because he's found to be complicit in the memorandum affair, or in the NRO cases, or whatever it is that he's found to be complicit in, and he loses his immunity, the Swiss cases go on.
Thank you
very much. Good luck. I'll send you the email so that you guys have all this stuff here. You can take this hard copy. I brought it down. One of you guys can take that hard copy.